Welcome to the Rugby League Outsiders set of 6, our weekly news show where we share the good, the great and the noteworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl, and on this week's show we're going to be looking at the NRL signings that are coming over to play for Hull FC. The RFL Disciplinary process has all changed, and there's a new man at the Midlands Hurricanes.
Right, welcome back to the show. As always, if you find any value in this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We've got lots of different types of content and lots of information coming your way. You're not going to want to miss any of that. So hit that subscribe button. Karl, you've picked out 5 interesting news stories. Then we've got the Williams Weekly at the end. What have we got to start with?
Well, close to home, there's a new man at the Midlands Hurricanes. Their new MD, and it's a man we all know, Earl Crabtree from the Huddersfield Giants. Great news. Again for the Midlands.
Not great news for me though, because every time I go to the Midlands Hurricanes, right, I'm constantly looking up at everybody else. And here's another one that's like twice the height of me.
Another giant of a man.
I'm freaking nosebleed looking at these lads.
Yeah, I believed he's taller than Big Red as well. Mike Lomas, yeah, they've been measuring themselves.
I don't know. They have.
Yeah, anyway,
that's the word on the street, that they've been in the changing rooms measuring themselves. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what he said. Something like that. But yeah, Earl Crabtree, I think, is a mate of Mike Lomas, owner of Midlands Hurricanes, so it kind of made sense. There's a few things to sort of digest here. I think it's quite exciting for the Midlands brand, bringing in a name like Earl Crabtree.
Iconic.
Yeah, iconic yeah.
In vision,
yeah.
Iconic as a player, and now he's in the Hurricanes. It's just brilliant. I mean, I'm just thinking about the Midlands Hurricanes Supporters Club. They must be going nuts about this.
Yeah, and it just gives the Hurricanes another notch up on the ladder, doesn't it? Sets them apart from other League One clubs, and I'm sure they're promising big things this year. I'm sure they wanted to get into
the pun.
Yeah, sure they wanted to get into that championship. But looking at Earl Crabtree's work that he did at Huddersfield Giants, I mean, he was a great player on the field, but his career off the field, I think, has been equally as good. And he was a commercial director at Huddersfield Giants, and he brought in loads of sponsors to Huddersfield Giants. So they were really well-financed club were Huddersfield with sort of the money that he brought into the club. So for that side as well, for the Midlands, I think it's just great news.
I think it always comes across, I mean, I don't know him, but he always comes across as a real people person as well. Talks really well whenever he's doing like the pundit work and all that kind of thing. So quite a power team they've got there with Greg Wood, Mike Lomas, now Earl Crabtree. It's a good little team being created. Plus
the ex-Bradford Bulls head coach, assistant coach. It seems like they've got everything they need in the right place now, and I'm excited to see how the club's going to grow in the next couple of seasons. It's funny you mentioned it. He has spoke to me. We are going to get him on the show. He's going to be a podcast guest, so I'm looking forward to speaking to him in a bit more depth and see what his plans are. He did sort of mention to me in a couple of messages the other day that he's come to the club because he wants to help it grow, and he wants to see rugby league as a whole grow in the Midlands as well. So he's saying all the right things. Can't wait. It's a good news story.
Yeah, so watch out for that episode that will be dropping pretty soon with Earl Crabtree. Right, moving on now, and we're going to check in with our tame NRL tipster, the Sniper. Now, we've been asked this week, like, where did we find this guy? All right, he's very, very posh. He's certainly a couple of classes above us, as you'll see from this week's conversation. And people sort of said, where did you find him? Now, the truth is, like you don't find the Sniper.
Nope.
The Sniper finds you.
This week, we're looking at Hull FC and Warrington. New signings coming in from the NRL. What have you got to tell us about them?
Well, it's like two extremes of the table as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
You got bottom end Hull FC and then Warrington pushing for that top spot. So this could be really interesting.
Just before we start, did you guys play league or union at school?
League.
We're both Northerners, mate.
Right.
Yeah, so 100% league. I've played union as well to sort of the end of my career, but I was predominantly league.
The only two, I've played union twice, right? So I was in the military, and every year we used to have this charity game where the officers would play the sergeant's mess, right?
Cannon
So
fodder.
I'd play. Well, I'd play for the sergeant's mess, and it was union, and I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. The lucky thing was everybody was pissed. Like, everyone was pissed, so it didn't matter. But I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and because of that, I didn't really enjoy it. So they're my 2 games of rugby union.
I think we're about to find out what position the sniper plays.
You reckon?
Yeah. Did you play sniper?
Could that be it?
Yeah.
In my day, we'd only play union in the winter and cricket in the summer.
Sounds about
God,
right.
I hated cricket.
Did you?
God, I hated the cricket.
Carl's a
They
massive
used to
cricket
say,
fan.
They couldn't stand it. Horrible games. They used to say to us, boys, never go north of the Watford Gap. Ha, 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 ha. So one day, I'm going to tell you a story. And I think this is better than Mrs. Eccles, which is actually reality.
Right.
So one day we had a big rugger match against another nearby prep school. Yeah, it was a prep school.
Right.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, of course I know what it is. Yeah. It's very posh. That's what it is.
Absolutely. I had a friend called Aubrey Boniface. Right? So his mother...
Not the third. Aubrey Boniface the third.
No, just Aubrey Boniface. So his mother, Mrs. Boniface, would arrive to drop him off just before kick-off, because they all say off. And she'd turn up in a mink coat every time with one of those Russian fur hats. And she hated being called Mrs. and insisted we all called her Madam Boniface. I'm like, right, okay, fine. Madam Boniface has arrived. So to inspire the team, she'd meet us all outside the changing rooms. And one day she said to us, I'll pay every boy from our team £5 for every try that he scores.
Nice.
And she'd heard that I was one of the wingers, and she approached me and she said, are you Sniper? I said, yes, Madam Boniface. She said, that's an interesting name. I said, it is, Mom. Very interesting. She said, make sure you score a hatful and I'll be back after the game. So everyone was really excited. Tries are being scored left, right and centre. It gets to half-time and I've scored 6 tries. I'm looking around and they're handing out the oranges at half-time. Where's Mrs. Boniface? She's nowhere to be seen. Bloody hell. So I asked Aubrey, your mother is coming, isn't she? I've scored 6 already, chap. Aubrey goes, yes, of course. Don't worry, mama will be here. So the second half restart, we win by a landslide, and I end up on 11 tries.
What?
So if you do the math, that's £55.
Yeah.
So I still can't see Mrs. Boniface at full time. Aubrey, where's your mother? He just doesn't look me in the eyes. So I grab him by the throat, throttle him, grab him by the short and curlies. Aubrey, where is she? He goes, I think she's gone to the hairdresser. I was like, the hairdresser? Now? That's preposterous, Audrey. So, Mrs. Boniface never turned up. Did I see my 55 quid? Did I ever? And then it was parents' evening that week as well. So I thought maybe she'll come to parents' evening. And they sent Aubrey's papa turned up instead. So, it wasn't all that bonny after that. Never got my 55 quid.
We need to start a
That's a
campaign.
little story about...
We need to get you your 55
Yeah,
quid. We
it.
need to track down this Madame Boniface and bloody get this money off you.
And you won't hear another rugby league story like that on any other podcast this
Can you
week.
believe
I can
that?
guarantee that.
Can you believe that? You could buy a Snipers Club membership with that 55 quid as well.
Exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely. Right, should we kick off, guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hull FC to start with, yeah.
Yeah, so Jordan Rapana, what a legend.
Yes.
Love this guy. You guys must have seen a lot of him.
Yeah, it was Canberra Raiders, wasn't he? So I used to like watching Canberra because there was a lot of Brits in there, weren't they? So I like Elliot Whitehead. I love Josh Hodgson and, the other players there. And so by proxy, you watch Rapana as well. So, yeah, I rate him a lot.
Yeah. So if you're going to war, you'd want this guy with you every single day of the week. He's a consummate professional, and he repeatedly carried the Raiders on his shoulders, game in, game out, every game for the last 2 years. He plays with no fear, and he gets smashed from pillar to post almost every game with no concern about his own welfare. So he's the ultimate warrior, if you like.
Yeah.
He's Maori. He scored 111 tries in 219 league games. So that's better than 1 in 2. And he scored 11 in 16 for New Zealand. So he made his name as a winger. He's played some union, and he moved to England to become a Mormon. And he played for Supermarine. Do you know anything about Supermarine? I've got no idea.
The name...
Well, I wonder if any of the listeners do.
Yeah, I mean, his name rings a bell, but I can't place it. So now I need a bit of digging on that.
Maybe the listeners can tell us.
Yep, drop it in the comments, please, if you know any more about that. Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. So over the last couple of years, he's played mostly at fullback. He's done really well. He's obviously lost quite a bit of his speed these days. He's got an awesome highlights reel, and he scored 2 drop goals for the Raiders last year in the same game. And he'd never even attempted one before. The Raiders won that game in Golden Point against the Dolphins by 1 single point. So he kicked a drop goal to get them to Golden Point and then another one to win the game. So that was a really, really big highlight over the course of last season. I can't remember. I think I heard it on a podcast somewhere a couple of years ago. So apparently Jordan Rapana was at a friend's house. He had a game the next day for the Raiders. And all the kids at that house, because there were loads of them, wanted to play some kind of murder mystery type game in the dark. So that game lasted 3 or 4 hours. Jordan Rapana played with the kids till like 2 or 3 a.m., whatever.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to make sure that they were all happy, having fun and looked after. And that's great, because you don't get many players that would just, put the kids before themselves, even if they're playing the next day. So that's the kind of model professional that they're recruiting. So he's going to be a great role model. He's still got the skills. He's definitely got the heart. But I don't really know where he's going to play.
Well,
isn't Logan Moy their fullback?
Hull have given him the number 1 shirt, so I'm expecting him to be playing fullback this year. The question I have regarding Rapana is he was due to retire, wasn't he, before he signed for Hull FC? Pretty short.
He smashed his cheekbone.
Yeah, so he pretty much announced his retirement. He's not that young anymore. Has he? Do you think he's still going to have it coming over into Super League next year? Or do you think he's one of these players who's just kind of now, at the end of the career, probably coming for an easier ride in Super League?
I think if there's one character coming over to the NRL that would not do that, it's this guy.
Right.
But I also think there's not an easy ride for him, is it? There's not an easy ride at Hull FC this year.
No.
They completely took the eye off the ball last season. It's just like they weren't even on the pitch sometimes. For a star like him to come across, I think they've had to give him the number 1 shirt to get him across as part of the package to get him across the Hull.
Yeah.
And, there's no easy ride there. No easy day.
Isn't Logan Moy their fullback normally? The kid, the really good kid?
But it was between him and Walker, wasn't it? And then Walker...
He's gone now.
Yeah. So there is potentially space there. But, it'd be interesting. I mean, where else could he play?
Was wing, innit?
Wing, but not at his age. You wouldn't think.
No, don't know.
Because I wouldn't really want to stunt the development of Logan Moy. He's actually one of our favourite up-and-coming Super League players.
Yeah.
So, that's just a personal thing. But he's a really good signing. On and off-field leader. I'm surprised he left Canberra. I thought he'd have probably a season or 2 left in him. But his body's been through the ringer really, really badly. So I think he'll be a cult hero for Hull FC fans. I think they've got a great one here, and he will lead the line for sure. Well,
it's interesting.
Big ticks for Jordan Rapana.
For Moy as well, to get under Jordan Rapana's wing, as like parts of his development. Sure. I mean, it's amazing for him as well. So, right, really exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, with bringing any fullback in like that, you've got to have some good halfbacks to play off, which Hull FC didn't have last year. They've had a complete change in halfbacks this year with Jordan Abdul and Aidan Caesar coming in. So, sniper Aidan Caesar, we know of him anyway from his Leeds days. How did he go last season in the NRL?
Yeah, I think when I first came across him, I originally thought he might have been part of the Lebanese brigade. So you're thinking Abbas Miski, Eliel Zahim. But it turns out he's originally Turkish. He's 33 years old. Our notes say journeyman half. Plays predominantly at standoff, and he played for Leeds and Huddersfield. I wanted to ask you before I tell you how he did last season. How did he do at Leeds and Huddersfield?
Do you know
what did he make of him in Super League?
Huddersfield, he did really well.
He was really good at Huddersfield,
really
wasn't he?
At Huddersfield, and was one of the standout, halves in the league, I would say, when he was at Huddersfield. Came to Leeds, and he just came to Leeds at a period where Leeds got really good at taking promising very good players and turning them into bang average. Almost like putting like comedy gloves on them, so they just tying the shoelaces together. It was weird, really weird. And he was of that period. And he came in and he didn't really spark. He didn't really spark at all. He was playing with
Blake Austin.
Yeah. Who was again one of the standout halves, and actually did much better at Leeds. But whether he didn't get the service, whether he didn't get the ball, I think Cruz Lehman had a part to play in it. Like I just don't think. I think he was like running with the ball too much, wasn't giving him the. I don't really know, but he certainly didn't fulfill his potential at Leeds. It was a bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah. But it was great at Huddersfield. But he was kind of leading the charge at Huddersfield. He was like he was the man. He was the leader of the pack, wasn't he? And he played for Huddersfield when Huddersfield had those really great couple of seasons, and they were right up there for League Leaders Shield. So I think he's a good player. I think. But I think it's one where he's got a great kicking game, by the way.
So I suppose what we could say right now is we're on either side of the fence, aren't we?
Yeah.
So fill us in, Snipes. What's your take on it?
If you had just asked me in the pub, I'd have said exactly what you said. Really good kicking game, exciting player. He's creative. You know he can do well, but will he? So when he was at the Tigers last season, he was a liability in defence. He hit. Let's have a quick look at his stats. He played 17 games, 0 tries, 9 try assists, 0 line breaks. He kicked 2 40-20s, conceded 15 penalties, caused 11 tries, 16 line breaks caused, 9 errors, and 52 missed tackles. The main thing he's got to sort out is his discipline. And I've noticed over the last season and a half at least that the Super League refs are stricter than the NRL refs. If there's any hint of a high shot, it might not even be a high shot, you're going to get binned. If there's any hint of a hip drop, you're going to get binned or you're going to get red.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm worried about. So Hull FC have got to start the season well, make sure that those silly mistakes are being cut out. Everyone's got to rally. If you've got an ex-Tigers player coming over following their most bin season ever, it's a record in the NRL, the number of bins that the Tigers had. Yeah. It's insane. I think I don't know the exact percentage, but we're talking at least a bin in 75% or more of their games last season.
Oh, that's perfect.
So there's a discipline issue there.
The same as Hull.
Yeah, Hull had massive discipline issues last year.
I think SA and I can't remember.
Franklin Pele. Well, they got rid of half at pack last year because the discipline was that bad. Yeah, could fit in well.
That's the first thing the coach has got to. This is the first thing he's got to address, because it's all well and good to have a really creative, potentially excellent half, but if he's going to get binned or do stupid things or concede penalties every 3 games, how are you going to carry him? How's your season ever going to start? How's Rapana going to get into it? I don't know. So that's my concern with him. Mentally, I'm worried about him. I'm worried about him in defence. Creative, yes. What about the effort areas? Is the effort going to be there? So that's pretty much it on him. So I think I'm with you guys.
Yeah,
but the bins are a serious concern.
And then you throw him into an environment like Hull FC. We've got to look at last year. That's all we can work on right now. And there was so much frustration in that team sometimes. It was almost like they were playing. Well, they weren't playing. They weren't invested in anything. It's almost like they were going, do you know what? Let's just get 2024 out of the way and have a look at 2025. And I remember having a conversation with a Hull fan, Karl, you might remember as well, where they were sort of saying, "Look, nothing's changing in 2025. They've got to be looking at 26."
They shut up shop pretty early, didn't they? To be fair, they put the queue on the rack, and they almost, as soon as like Richie Myler started coming, they kind of started building for 25 anyway, didn't they? Really, So it's hard one. Hull FC is a really hard one to judge how they're going to go next year.
But you then throw in someone who's perhaps got a problem with his temperament, who doesn't like it when it doesn't go his way. Is it going to make it worse? I can't see it making it any better.
But equally, he can be a quality player as well. So
agreed.
I think we're all a bit on the fence, aren't we, with this one?
I think you're being a little bit harsh. I think Hull FC did have a couple of good performances last season, probably early in the season.
Yeah, against Leeds.
If you're talking about the second half of the season, if you're talking about the second half of the season or, the last few months, the wheels came off for sure. But, fresh year, fresh slate, some new players, some gun players arriving. can everyone be motivated to really muck in and to make sure that last season was just an abomination?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing you've got to address. Rally the troops.
Yeah, I mean...
are they all going to be in it together?
Yeah, but the thing, with Hull, there's so much potential, isn't there? They've got a huge following, an absolute, die-hard large group of supporters. They're based in a place where it's an absolute rugby league. It's a religion. It's a religion there, rugby league. So they've got so much going for them. And if they could just sort out a few things, and maybe, I mean, they've got, they've just got some new deep pockets, haven't they, involved in the club. So maybe this is the start of something great for Hull.
I'd like to see them do really well. So, yeah, fingers crossed for that.
Yep.
We'll see.
Quick one. There is a report. There was a report a couple of days ago that Jordan Abdul might be moving on. So I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that story and see where we go.
Well, I had him as one of my ones to watch next year for Hull FC. So
right,
I didn't know he was potentially moving on. I mean,
yeah, it's a bit weird.
He's not kicked a ball yet for him. Get onto that in a bit then. Right, Warrington Wolves then. They've also been on the transfer market, not done as much work, but they have brought somebody in from the NRL.
Yeah, this is left field. This guy, Dan Russell, 29 years old. He's only played 8 times for the Dragons. Well, he played 8 times for them last season. He's a PNG international, but he's not one of their noted players. He's a second rower. He is versatile. So on the face of it, to me, he looks like a cover signing. His NRL career has never really taken off. Maybe he's mates with Roderick Tye. Not really sure. So he hasn't featured in our black book. He hasn't been on our watch list. But I did message a mate who's a St George Illawarra Dragons fan. So I'll tell you about that in a sec.
I mean, I've watched him.
Are you guys familiar with him?
I know of him. I've not seen him play much in the NRL, but I have seen him play for PNG a couple of times. He's such a tall guy, massive stature. You always kind of think that you should get a little bit more from him than what you do. Yeah, and I'll be honest, what I've seen him, he's not set the world alight, but he's a bit of a steady Eddie. So I think what you've said is he's
solid is the word.
Yeah, he's probably a backup. But
then do you add the Burgess factor? He always seems to get like an extra 2 to 5% out of a player. You add that 2 to 5% to Dan Russell, does it turn him into a great player?
Well, potentially, because Sam wouldn't have brought him over if he hadn't seen something in him, would he? He clearly knows of him, so maybe he's untapped talent. Be interested to see though. See how he gets on for a while.
Yeah, if you think of the other second rowers there, I mean, you've got Lockie Fitzgibbon, ex-on NRL player, ex-Newcastle Knight. I'm a big fan of him. He knows how to score a try as well.
Yeah.
And he's good in defence. Our friend, the St George fan, said strike second rower. I asked him, what do you mean strike?
Yeah.
Didn't really strike me as a strike second rower. Well, where's that come from? He's like, yeah, I know, but he's solid and stuff like that. So
I don't think we're not going to see him get over the try line many times in the season, are we? But he might do a job for him in the middle. Is that what you're thinking? I'm
not sure if he's. I think he's cover. I don't think he's starting.
Right.
But I'm asking you guys, who do you think the main 2 second rows will be over the course of the season? Fitzgibbon and James Harrison.
Right. People rate. Well, I mean, he can play front row, can't he? And people have got a lot of time for James Harrison, and he featured in the England squad last year.
Adam Holroyd, Tom Whitehead.
See, neither of them. Adam Holroyd potentially.
Ben Curry.
Ben Curry's very dated at the minute. So
see, I don't know that other second rower spot, which is why I asked you. So I think Lockie Fitzgibbon definitely starts. I don't know who takes the other spot. That's why I asked you.
Probably Ben Curry, I would think.
Why don't we ask the fans what they think? Who they want to see?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
At second row.
Okay, so there is a spot there, with a couple of players moving on. Ben Curry is aging a little bit. So let's throw it out to you guys that are watching now. Stick it in the comments below. Who do you think is going to snatch that second spot in the second row for Warrington Wolves this year? And similarly, who's going to be playing there at loose forward? Bit unknown at the minute.
Good stuff. Guys, just wanted to add one thing. Our season starts on the 7th of February. So if anyone is interested in potentially being part of our club, then do get in touch. Have a look at the show notes to find more information about the different packages that we offer. and we've got a waiting list on one of our packages now already. So drop a note, say hi, and we'll give you whatever information you need. Thanks, guys.
Okay, cheers.
Have a great week.
And you. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
See you later.
As always, mega interesting stuff there from the Sniper. And of course, if you do want to get in the Sniper Club, then check out the links down below. It's a great way to help the show, but also potentially put some money in your pocket. He really does know his stuff, as do the whole of the team. Fires out amazing tips. And the run up to the season, you want to be in there because you can't win it unless you're in it. Karl, you did your usual and you did a little bit of a deep dive into the Hull FC team there, and you've come up with a number of players that you believe are the ones to watch for 2025.
Well, they have raided the Lee Leopards locker room, haven't they, of Hull FC in the off-season. But there are other players there that I just thought we'd have a little talk about and see what you think. However, the first one I'm going to pull up is possibly departing. So Jordan Abdul is the first player I thought I'd mentioned as one of my ones to watch. The reason I had him down was I thought with Caesar coming in, Abdul as the opposite half, I thought Hull had probably one of the best kicking games in Super League with them. Jordan Abdul's high bombs, incredible. Nobody can match him with a high bomb.
I remember we watched him at Catalan, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were at London, but they were playing Catalan.
Yeah.
And they were putting balls up and you're like,
They come back
how
with
the fuck is
just
how has he
snow
done
on
that?
them. Yeah.
It's like defies physics. Like how has he done that? You know, not only did it go like unbelievably high, but then they just sort of spiraling and drop it. It's just amazing what he does with the ball.
So with his high kicking game and Caesar's really short kicking game, he's got a great grubber kick on him. I thought they balanced really well and give themselves a great kicking game. But however, in the news this week is Jordan Abdul's potentially he's on his way. He's not settled in Hull. We don't really know what's gone on there.
Yeah, nothing's been kind of confirmed. There's been a few suggestions here and there. So it's obviously a little bit too early to tell, but, he may be there, may not.
He just never looked fit last year, did he?
Well, he's never looked fit.
No, but he did so well at Hull KR. And last year, he really, something didn't really work for him last year at Catalan. I just thought he'd never really looked fit.
For wine and cheese, isn't it? Like wine and cheese going away or something. I don't know.
Right, onto the pack. Herman SASA. Hull had their problems in the pack last year. Big time. They didn't damage anybody. They didn't strike fear into anybody. The big name signings they had coming over, I don't know whether they just didn't get on with each other or...
No, they got quashed by the new rules. I thought they brought in two massive enforcers, which Hull tend to do. They've always got size and aggression in the pack. Always, right? And it's just it's just part of the blueprint, especially when Lee Radford were there. It's just what he knew, and then the RFL brought in new rules which absolutely quashed them. Franklin Pele, SA, they just got absolutely spanked in the first game, multiple cards. And then a week in, week out, suspension, in and out of suspensions and clip the wings, so they couldn't play the game that they were renowned for and brought in for. So, that's my take on it. But
SASA is a bit of a unit. He can put it about. If he has a good season, I think Hull will do well. So I think he's still one to watch for them next year. Also in the pack, Ligisau, second row loose forward, another guy who, if he's on his game, he will have a great season. He's another one who didn't quite fire last year, but I would expect something of him next year. With a decent set of halfbacks, I think he could do well.
Yeah, same again though. Of that ilk, isn't it?
Right, the other one, John Asiata. Like I said, the raided the Lee toy box. So Asiata, great player. I think this is a really shrewd signing for Hull FC. I would expect him to go well. He had a great season last year. I think he will add quite a bit to Hull FC's pack.
Yeah, definitely. Close to the line as well. Devastating on that. Those tough carries. And I think he's one of those players where he'll definitely be on the opposition's tip sheet. I think they'll be working to keep him, SASA, quiet. And I think they'll think if we can do that, we can nullify Hull FC. So, yeah, great signing. Performed incredibly well last year. So, probably going to roll on to another strong season, I would think.
Yeah, and then the last player that I've picked is Cade Cust, who's come over from Salford. look, he had a great year when he was at Wigan, didn't he? 2022, lifted the Challenge Cup with Wigan. He gives them another dimension in the halfbacks. I don't know whether he's a bit of a utility player, isn't he? They can drop him in a number of positions. I suppose if Abdul is going, which we don't know, it's just speculation at this minute. They've got another halfback there, but he can fill multiple positions. He can drop in at 9 for him if they need to. I think smart move bringing him over, especially the fact that he can drop into a number of different positions. Yeah,
it is. And, Hull decimated with injuries last year, weren't they? Yeah. So, obviously that's in their mind thinking, well, we've got to be able to cover that, especially in today's day and age where there's just no let up in the programme and injuries can dictate your season. Look at St Helens. Absolutely terrible end to the season, and the word from the camp was we're just low on troops every week. So a cover player like that, I don't think is a direct replacement for Jordan Abdul. He doesn't match Jordan Abdul in regards to his kicking game. Yeah. But moving a team around the pitch, I think he does incredibly well. Physically, I think he's above Jordan Abdul.
Yeah, he's in decent shape.
You'd think, yeah. So, one of those utility players where you may struggle to put him in a dedicated place, but comfortable in the fact that he could play in multiple positions. Not great for Cade Cuss, perhaps, who might want some stability to his game and want to make a position his own and develop himself like that. But for a club, brilliant to have.
Yeah, so pretty much that's the 5 that I've picked out. I mean, there are other players who they brought over. Zach Hardacre, I don't really see it from Zach Hardacre anymore. I think he's at the back end of his career. I think he's slowed down a little bit, but it will give him a bit of direction on the field. And they are bringing a number of young lads through. And the big news from Hull FC, the big news, Craig.
Right.
Brad Fash has had his haircut.
Yeah, and that's probably the best bit of news I've had. Last year, I hated that mullet. Honestly, it was like more home and away, beach bum. I just really struggled with it. And then he had some kind of facial hair going on as well, and I was just like, I struggle with your slid, let alone his.
I've got a shocker going on at the minute. Barber butchered me this weekend. Anyway, yeah, that's a place to watch from Hull. I mean, who do you think FC are going to have a decent year next year? Do you think it's going to be an improvement on last season, or are we going to see the same terrible?
It's got to be an improvement on last season.
Yeah.
It really has to be, and the 2 parts to that. One is it couldn't get any worse, surely. All right, they beat Leeds, but putting that aside, they really struggled. They really struggled. So it's got to be better. But the other thing as well is that there are lots of changes going on in that club.
Massive, yeah.
And one of which
is every level.
Yeah, at every level, from financial input to the chief exec has been announced this week. Brackets director of rugby. I don't know how many freaking hats Richie Marlowe needs to wear, but and then bringing in some fresh players. Some old stalwart. You mentioned Zach Hardacre. Tom Briscoe there as well. They've played together for years and years. So there's going to be chemistry there. And
they haven't exactly spent massive though, have they?
No.
They really. I mean, you look at we looked at Castleford last week, and they've invested what appears to be quite a lot of money in bringing some new recruits over from the NRL. I don't see that, although Hull FC have had a big influx of money coming, I don't think they've
potentially.
Yeah, potentially. Well, we don't. That's the rumour, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've not really invested that heavily in the squad. So I'm on the fence a little bit. I'm expecting them to be better than they were last year, but I don't see them. Looking at the squad, I don't see it challenging for the playoffs.
Well, Rapana and Caesar won't be cheap.
No.
So, we don't know. That's an aspect of Rugby League that we're not privy to. It's a very British thing. We don't really announce signing fees too much and go into that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think they've recruited
steady.
Yeah. They're not splashed out.
But a lot of the other teams have recruited really well as well. Yeah. So that's why I'm not sure. I'm not sure how well they're going to do. I'd be surprised if they make it into the playoffs. But what do I know?
Go on then. Let's go, Karl. Hang your hat on a position for Hull to finish in the general league this year, isn't it? 2025.
I think bottom two.
Bottom two.
Yeah, I still think bottom two. I'm going to get loads of stick for that, but I think Wakey are going to do all right next year.
I'm saying 9th or 10th.
9th or 10th, right.
So we'll see how that works out.
We're going to be popular on one side of Hull next year, aren't we?
Of course, we're going to do predictions for this year's Super League in the next couple of videos. So make sure you hit the subscribe because you don't want to miss that, and all the kit reviews from the Super League, Championship, and some of the League One stuff as well. So loads of content coming up.
I've even done some NRL ones. We'll throw them in as well.
Ice cold, as always, there from the Sniper. And not only is the Sniper ice cold, but the weather has been absolutely atrocious. It has hit the Challenge Cup first round really, really hard. But one game that did go ahead was the Hammersmith Hoists, Triple H, with Siddle. Two teams that somehow we've got some kind of allegiance with.
Yes, so we caught up with Brad Hirons, who was at the game, and he's brought us this match report. Brad, what type of game was it? Did you enjoy the afternoon's rugby league?
Yeah, it was more of it felt like a middle of the winter evening rugby union game with the weather, but
yeah,
the quality of the game was really good. The first quarter of the game was quite scrappy. Both teams were trying to beat each other in the middle, which for Hammersmith is quite a surprise because they like to play quite open usually in the summer. I think when it's a bit warmer and they know they're not going to make the errors, they like to spread the ball, but they tried to front up against Siddle, which as it turned out was quite a mistake. I mean, first 20 minutes it was a bit like, which team's going to get on top, and I think you could tell that Siddle was a better side and had a bit more of the experience. There was a really bad tackle in around the 20-minute mark, really, where I think it was Ackroyd. Christian Ackroyd was sort of bent over on his back by the Hammersmith fullback, and everyone just seemed to run in, push in, shove in. I didn't see anyone throw a punch, and I don't think the referee or the linos did either. So it was only the yellow card for the Hammersmith fullback, and Siddle just took control from that point. He had a try from Henry Turner and another one from Ollie Lewis, and then Lewis Hosty, the fullback, who's the current NCL Player of the Year.
Yeah,
he slotted one conversion and penalty to make it 12-0, and I don't think Siddle really were going to let Hammersmith back into it. That was until Harry Milnes, brother of Rowan, who listeners may know, he got a yellow card for a high tackle. I mean, there was plenty of high tackles that were missed by the referee, but these two got seen. Another scrap. He had a 10-minute rest, and then James Russell got a try for Hammersmith just before the break. The conversion was missed 12-4 at half time, and then second half really not a lot happened until 10 minutes to go, where Hammersmith kind of just ran out of energy a little bit. They had plenty of ball in the Siddle half, that good 10-15 minute spell where if they'd have scored, the game probably would have turned on its head a little bit and you would have thought they might have got the win. But Siddle's defence was just absolutely outstanding. I mean, Cayman Smithies coming on for his spell, MCL injury in the grand final last year, shouldn't have really played in this game, but he came on alongside Josh Milnes, brother of Harry. He played 80 minutes, and then Adam Horner, the other prop. I mean, them three in the middle were absolutely outstanding when they were on together, and they just managed to hold them out. And then Harry Milnes made up for his yellow card, stepped through about 4 players and just scored under the posts. Hosty with the conversion, 18-4, like see you later. Basically, it was very even, but you could just tell Siddle had that extra step, that extra sort of level where they just played at. Even though on paper both teams are the same, there's definitely a higher quality in the NCL compared to the SCL, and that was obvious.
And do you think, I mean, obviously, very extreme weather conditions, do you think Siddle just played the weather conditions better, or it suited their overall game plan better? What was your sort of sense about that?
I think the weather conditions made the game the way it was, in terms of both teams decided to try and keep hold of the ball, because as soon as they tried to play out, you notice that the ball was getting slippery on the pitch as the night moved, as sort of the evening moved into night, especially in the second half. The pitch got quite slippery, and the ball, as soon as the ball hit the deck, you just couldn't keep hold of it. And both teams made quite a lot of errors, and I don't think either team will be 100% happy with the performance. I mean, Siddle have got definitely some training to do in the next 2 weeks. I think they've got 3 or 4 sessions between now and then, and I think that's a bonus for them. They've got that extra week compared to some of the other teams. But I wouldn't have said the weather made too much of a difference in the way they played. But yeah, Yeah, it's difficult to say really because I don't see a lot of Siddle. I think Hammersmith tried to play out the back, but they didn't. They knew they weren't going to get round them, so they had to try and front up and get into a dogfight. And ultimately, they just lost the dogfight because they knew they weren't going to be able to play out wide just because the Siddle defence was so good.
I read a bit of a match report that Hammersmith, they only had a few surviving players from the squad last year from the SCL final. Do you think they're in a bit of a rebuilding phase? I know the Hammersmith side tends to change quite often from year to year. Do you think they're sort of finding the feet again for this season? It'd be interesting to see how they develop and whether or not they get the lads back that are currently playing in France. I mean, there's 2 lads that are playing in France at the minute. Jackson Mule, the fullback, is one of them. I can't remember the name of the second one. But Tom Condon and Harry Welker have gone home. They've gone back to Australia. And I know they've got 3 or 4 lads out with injuries. So Vince is hoping to get a few lads back for the season. But yeah, only 6 from the grand final. I think if they'd had the team they put out in the grand final, it would have been a closer game, definitely. I think they potentially could have got a win. But then finding out that Siddle are missing 10 lads from what they call their first team squad, that's a huge miss for them as well. So I think if both teams are full strength, you could probably be looking at a similar game. So I think Hammersmith were quite lucky that they met the Siddle side that they did, even though they come out on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, Siddle obviously famous for turning out a lot of talent that currently feature in the Super League and have featured before, none more so than current Leeds Rhinos player
Jake Connor.
Jake Connor. You managed to catch up. You managed to catch up with Jake and got a few words from him, Brad.
Yeah, I did. I mean, Jake was very welcoming, and the whole Siddle crew were. And in fact, I'm looking forward to seeing them in 2 weeks when I come and catch the Midlands game in round 2. They left Halifax at 20 to 9, 8:30 to 9 in the morning. So it wasn't too much of an early start. I think they were hoping to catch the 2:30 game, but obviously then when that was called off because that was being played on the grass between Alton and Chargers, then they would have come down and had a whole afternoon of rugby league. But the whole team was very welcoming. I mean, just going through the team list now in front of me: Lewis Hosty, the NCL Player of the Year last season; Liam Whitton, previously of Cornwall, played a lot in Leeds Rhinos Academy. You got Harry Milnes and Josh Milnes, brothers of Rowan. They were outstanding, especially Josh Milnes, played 80 minutes in the front row. Adam Horner, according to Jay Connor and a lot of the Siddle fans, he wasn't amazing last year, but he probably played one of the best games they've ever seen in a Siddle shirt at the weekend. And then the bench was just massive for them. Jacob Rushworth, Dan Booth, Kanan Smithies and Mason Scott Tinkler. They just come on and gave them exactly what they needed to do. There's so much talent in that squad. And I know for a fact that the League One clubs will be sniffing around them if they have another successful season. They want to go one step further and obviously win that grand final. And I think with the squad that they've got, seeing what they've got today, they'll be happy and confident going into the NCL. And you never know, depending on what team Midlands put up in 2 weeks' time, and if there's any injuries at Midlands, that could be an absolute cracker of a game at the Alexander Stadium for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's catch up with. Let's listen into what Jake Connor's got to say in this short clip now.
So Jake, obviously assistant coach of Siddle, you've travelled a few hours to get down here, 5 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night in the cold. How did you find that game, and then how was the result? How did you feel after?
Tough game. Obviously we knew it was going to be tough. Long travel for us. Don't think we've played in minus weather before, but no, the boys were great. It's a tough ask to them to do on a Saturday. Give the Saturdays up and come down here. It's a long day for them, but their attitude was outstanding and they put that into performance. They did what we asked. We knew we weren't going to be perfect with the ball, but they dug in and they showed some grit. Yeah, and obviously your middles today, you had Milnes play 80 minutes in the middle. What does that bring to your team? Yeah, it's massive for us in general. We relied so much on him last year. Unfortunately, I can't do 80 every week. But I kind of teed him up for a week, knowing with the players we had missing, he were going to play a big stint, and you know what, he did it to his best as he could, and he actually looked quite good. So first it out, it looked good for 80 minutes. You've got 2 weeks now, Midlands Hurricanes away. What's your prep going to be in the next 2 weeks? How many sessions will you have between now and then? Not sure yet. Don't know if he picked up a couple of injuries from that, so we'll have to see. Hopefully a few boys coming back, but if they're a bit sore Tuesday, then might give them Tuesday off, and then they'll be in Thursday. and then probably Tuesday, Thursday, getting ready for Midlands. But no, I've got all confidence in boys. Hopefully a few men back and put another solid performance in.
And for the season ahead, obviously there's going to be quite a big gap between round 2, 3, however far you get till the season starts. What are your goals and aspirations for the season ahead? Would go one better than last year?
Well, that's the plan. That's what we set out to do, me and Inge. We know we've only had the job, his first proper season, but we've definitely got the team for it. And I think we were the best team over the year last year, and we just fell short in the grand final. But I think it's made the boys hungry, and I've realised what they have to do in big games. But just also in the Challenge Cup, I think it's a bit stupid, if I'm honest, playing this early as an amateur team and going up against League One teams, Championship teams who have done 2 months of pre-season. I think it's a dangerous game. We're playing for amateurs, and especially when they don't get looked after. So it is what it is, but we'll do our best at Midlands.
Thank you. And obviously, on a personal note, good luck for the season at Leeds, first one, and then enjoy yourself.
Brad, I couldn't have you on the phone without talking a little bit about Bedford Tigers.
Of course.
Yeah, so obviously you put in an application last year for League One. The club didn't quite get it, but they've learnt a lot from that process, I believe. What can we be expecting from Bedford this year?
You'll be from my point of view, I'm looking to, with Rob, improve the media that we put out. So in the next few weeks or so, we'll be searching for people to join our media team. We'll be looking at making our match day experience more exciting for visiting fans and people that might like come to the club before, watch games. I mean, the recruitment's been absolutely fantastic. The lads are really buying into a new sort of mentality that we're putting into the squad. I won't reveal too much because we're quite early in the stage and things have still got to be signed off, and I'm not sure what Rob will or will not want me to say. And but yeah, they would keep an eye on the next few weeks. It's an exciting time for the club this year. I mean, League One, I know, is still the goal, and I know Rob has said that openly to different people. I mean, we do want to be a League One club. Yeah. So, working towards that and being as professional as possible and reaching our goals that we want to reach, both on and off the field, will be fantastic. And, having the support from the likes of yourselves and obviously other podcasters that boost the club's sort of brand is the main thing, what we really want to do.
Okay, finally from me.
So we are excited.
If you could just have a few words about the crowd that turned up for the Hammersmith and Siddle game. Like, was there plenty of supporters there despite the weather, or what was happening on the ground?
Yeah, there was plenty of noise being made on the Hammersmith side of things. Yeah, which was closer to the bar, which I'm not surprised because with it being so cold, they wanted to get in and out at half time and full time as quickly as possible. But yeah, Hammersmith were giving it all day. But as soon as Siddle got into the game, their supporters were well up for it. I mean, there was only a small handful of them, 10 or 12, but I mean, it's a long journey to make on a Saturday in that weather, so you can't blame them for not bringing loads. But they're a good bunch of people, and yeah, it was just exciting to be back involved in competitive rugby league, even if it is so early in the year. It was good. I think they'll bring a good number to Midlands in 2 weeks as well, with it being a little bit closer.
Yeah, well, Brad, thanks for taking the time out. I know you're on your lunch break, for coming in and having a chat to us and going to the game and getting a match report from us. Look, I'm looking forward to meeting up with you in a couple of weeks' time when we watch the Midlands versus Siddle. I'm sure it'll be a cracker. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good one. See you in 2 weeks. Have a good one.
And you. See you later.
Yeah, there was another game there that we wanted to keep an eye on. That's the Eastern Rhinos were playing West Warriors. What's the score there?
Yeah, so Eastern Rhinos 4, West Warriors 66. So the West Warriors really took it to the Eastern Rhinos, and they will have a fixture against. They were playing either the Army or the RAF in the next round. So that's an exciting fixture in itself.
Okay, now during that match report, we did hear from Jake Connor. Now Jake. Jake was very vocal about his concern for his players coming up against, or potentially coming up against, Super League players in just a couple of weeks, if they make it through. And he was a bit nervous about that, and probably, or possibly rightly so. Now we're going to dig into that in the Williams Weekly this week. We're going to look at, is it just a little bit too early for these Super League clubs to enter the competition, or is it about right? So we have spoke about this before. We're going to get Karl's take on it, plus my bit of input. We want yours as well, so stick with us all the way to the Williams Weekly. Okay, next up then, a bit of news. Well, it's not actually from the RFL. It does concern the RFL, but it wasn't dropped by them, Karl, was it?
Yeah, a bit of there's a few talking points on this story. So Keighley Cougars announced that their player Brad England had received a suspension, first player to be suspended this year, due to colliding with a referee in the Bradford v Keighley game on Boxing Day or thereabouts. There's a new disciplinary process in play, which we didn't know about until Keighley Cougars broke this news story. So there's two parts to this story. I'm gonna dig into the new RFL disciplinary laws first, and then I'm going to talk about Keighley Cougars second.
Right. A team which you love, Karl. We know that. We know you love Keighley Cougars.
We've been having some good conversations on Twitter this week, me and Keighley Cougars. So yeah, I'll get the full take on it in a minute. Right, so there's a new points-based system in play this year with all of rugby league in the professional tiers. So it used to go like this, didn't it? You got graded A to F, depending on what sort of charge you received during the game. So you might, if you got like a grade C, it might have been a 3-game ban. A grade 4. That's how it used to work. Oh no, that's no good anymore. We've thrown that out the window. New sort of system in place. So how it's going to work now? There's going to be a points-based system. It's based on your disciplinary record as well. So grade A, you get 1 point. Grade B, 3 points. Grade C, 5 points. Grade D, 12 points. Or if you get something in grade E, then it's a tribunal as it used to be. So this is where it gets interesting. Depending on so if you get like say you've got a grade B for a tackle that you've did earlier on in the season, you get 3 points on your record. If you then get done for something else, that gets added to your 3 points that you've already got on your record. So I think
so. You accumulate your points throughout the season.
Yeah,
and how long do those points stay on for?
They stay on your record for 12 months.
Crikey.
So Brad England had some points on his record from last year. So when he got hit with a charge, I think it was making contact with a referee, it then got added to the points that he already had on his record. And I think he ended up with like 18 points, which gave him a 3-game ban. So I'll go through a little bit. So if you get 0 to 2 points, you don't get anything on your record.
Well, you're going to whack these up on the screen, are you?
No, I'll just read through a few of them. 3 to 5 points, and you get a fine. Anything that's 6 to 8 points, it's like 1 match ban, and then it goes up in tiers. Like 15 to 17 points is a 2-match ban. 21 to 23 points is a 3-game ban. So on and so on, all the way up to 54 points. If you get 54 points plus, it's a 12-game ban plus a fine. So I think Brad England, he's on like 18 points now.
Yeah.
Right. So if he gets another suspension, or if he's charged with something else in the season, that's going to get added on to what's already on his record. So say he gets another 4 points on his record for something that might be fairly minor, he's going to get hit with like a 4-game ban.
I mean, although
what do you think of it?
Right, although it's a change in the system, actually, it's not too much of a change because all that stuff was taken into account before, wasn't it? That you'd look at someone else's like record, the disciplinary record in the past. We used to hear that story all the time. So that's not changed. They've just formalised it and perhaps, made it a bit easier for the disciplinary panel to issue sanctions in the right level. Now, my sort of question here, because I don't know, is like after that 12 months, does that mean they can't then take it into account in future sanctions? Do you know what I mean? So it's say in the 2025 season, you accrue 25 points.
Yeah.
Right? Going into the 2026 season, can then they go back, well, in 2025 you did this, therefore we're going to give you more points. Like, how does that work?
Yes, it's a 12-month, it's like a rolling 12-month period.
But once that 12 months period expired, so
then they get
then
they're wiped off your disciplinary record at that point. So they're only kept on there for a 12-month period. I think what this encourages is if a minor offence that you may have got a 1 or 2 game ban from, I think what we'll see is you won't get a ban now for if your player who's got a clean record and you get done for a head-eye tackle, but they only grade it as like 3 or 4 points. Essentially, you're not going to get a ban for your first challenge. But if you're a serial offender, someone who's constantly up against the RFL disciplinary, you're going to get hit with bigger and bigger suspensions. Yeah. So reviewing it, I actually think it's quite a good idea. When I first heard about it, I thought that's a bit balmy. Is that coming up with this like points-based system? And when you actually dig into it and really look at the detail of it, I do think it makes sense. Really,
the thing for me is we need our stars on the pitch, and there was a period last year where, because of the rules, a lot of our big stars, the people that we paid money to go and watch, were on the bench. In the stand, they couldn't even play because of different bans and stuff like that. Now, it's been talked about Eddie Earn, that clip surfaced again, whether it's a new one, an old one or whatever, but that clip surfaced where there's no stars in Rugby League. Well, how are you going to establish stars and grow the profile of Rugby League if your best players are in the freaking stand, unable to play?
Yeah.
If this goes somewhere to keeping our stars on the pitch that have perhaps just had a little bit of drop in red mist, a couple of uncharacteristic errors or lost their mind, I'm thinking Kevin Sinfield headbutt, that kind of thing, then... but we can get them back on the pitch and still have a decent disciplinary process. I'm all for it.
Yeah, so you've got to, if you get hit with a grade C charge this year, that's only 5 points on your record. That wouldn't give you a match ban. You got to be 6 points is for a 1 match ban. So like say misdemeanors where you may have picked up a 1 or 2 game ban last year, you're going to get away with it this year. So I'm all for it. But then serial offenders, like I say, they're going to get hit with a bigger ban. So I'm all for it. I think it's good. What's surprising about this story is that the RFL didn't announce it. Is that this is the second part that I'm going on to. It's essentially Keighley Cougars that broke this news story. Now, I'll be honest, right? I jumped on Twitter and I was like, this is a bit unprofessional of a rugby club to be
throwing the governing body under the bus.
Yeah, and they were kind of showing the replay online. So the other part to this is Brad England got charged for making contact with a referee.
And it's funny, we were talking about that last week.
Yeah, which sounds terrible, doesn't it? Yeah. Like, he made contact with the referee. It's absolutely terrible. If you actually watch the replay, he's just running. He's chasing a kick downfield. The referee's not looking at him. And he steps to the side and makes contact with the player that's running through. So I did think the charge was really harsh, to be honest with you. I watched it. I thought, he can't do anything about that. That isn't his fault. So anyway, that don't matter. So yeah, Keighley announced this new rule change, and like I say, I jumped on going, this is just not professional. You shouldn't be showing replays online saying, "Oh, my player's innocent." Just go through the correct channels. Deal with the RFL disciplinary, and act a little bit more professional. And then I realised how clever they'd been and what they'd actually done. So by putting this out there, by essentially announcing this, and then putting the replay out there, everybody starts messaging and chatting, and like all of Cougars fans are in there, and fans from other teams all messaging, and it clicked then. I went, IMG engagement. They've absolutely played a blinder, because this was one of the most talked about stories last week, and they've played an absolute blinder.
So do you think this was engineered then?
Yeah, I think. Well, no, I don't, well,
no. The story's not engineered, but the way that it was delivered, that there was thought behind it.
Yeah,
let's call it clickbait.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. Because I messaged him. I said, "So he's been clever here, haven't you?" And there was somebody put a message online along the lines, "Well, this is how the world works now." And so yeah, I think they took advantage of a situation that was a poor situation for them, and they turned it into a positive, and they're working the IMG social media scores to their advantage, so fair play to them.
Well, I mean, they've never been short of a few stories, Keighley, based on the last couple of seasons, so fair play, they're off to a great start.
Yeah.
All right.
Winning the IMG ladder in 2025 is Keighley Cougars are at the top of the table.
Williams Weekly this week. So we heard Jake Connor before talking about like his concern about players potentially coming up against Super League players after just a couple of weeks now. We spoke last year about like how can we make the Challenge Cup a little bit more interesting, right? Yeah. And then the RFL decided, okay, we're going to introduce the pro clubs at an earlier stage, and we was like, this is great. Now, in hindsight, we look at it and we think, right, is this in the best interest of the welfare of the amateur players that are not full-time, that perhaps not trained consistently for months? They've not had the months of pre-season training that Super League players have had. You know, are we doing them, you know, is this dangerous? Or am I being a little bit too sensitive over this?
You make a good point there, because there was a team pulled out of the Cup and they cited this very reason. Amateur clubs aren't supposed to be playing at this time of year, are they? Due to the information they received regarding concussions and head injuries and things like that. The rules are relaxed for teams in the Challenge Cup, which seems a little bit balmy, doesn't it, really? When we're talking about the Challenge Cup, I mean, I think it's great that the Super League teams and the Championship and League One teams are coming in earlier. I mean, if we're just talking about the competition itself, I think it's really, we all want that like giant killing moment. I know it's never going to happen against a Super League team, obviously, but I think like some of the NCL teams, the SCL teams, coming against League One teams, there's potential there that it could create a bit of drama, and that's what we need in rugby league. So on that side of it, I'm all for it. However, you've made a very valid point. These amateur players, that they're not training as consistent as the like the semi-pro players, and yeah, I do think there is something that needs to be looked at there.
We'll bring it closer to home. So we've got Telford Raiders. They didn't play this weekend because the weather was shocking up north.
Yep.
Shocker. However, there is a potential. Telford Raiders play Rochdale Mayfield.
Yep.
Beat them.
Yep.
And then face Oldham. Right.
Yeah.
Now, you and I were laughing at that. They was like, this is brilliant. You know, you think, you know the personalities in Telford Raiders coming. You know what? You know, we've been to watch Oldham play.
Yeah.
You know, they're called Ruffians for a freaking reason. Like, you know what I mean? It's a serious outfit. They're just getting stronger and stronger. You know, and then you're like, is this like, dare I say, duty of care, looking after players? Yes, everybody wants to test themselves on the highest level they can, but is it dangerous? And I don't really know what the answer is. I'd be interested to see what the listeners and the viewers think about this, because, you know, God forbid something happens and someone gets seriously hurt. You know, are we saying that the laws of the game will prevent that?
But you can get seriously hurt playing against other amateur players on a Saturday in the middle of the summer.
But you do a risk assessment on this, Karl.
I'll just give you my opinion. If you're giving me the opportunity to play against a semi-pro club or a pro club, mate, I don't fucking care about risk assessments. I want to play in that match.
Yeah, I know you do. And I remember I played GB under 23s, right, when I was in the Navy, in the Marines. I was never in the Navy. I was fucking in the Marines. Right, we played Great Britain under 23s, right, and I got the absolute shite kicked out of me. It was more than a couple of levels above where we were. Right, now in theory, it was like, it's an amazing, great game, you know what I mean? It really was a great spectacle. But I freaking knew about it, like, you know, and that's what we're talking about here. And I'm not, you know, I'm like you. I'll get involved I'll get amongst it. That's what you start playing league for. But in today's day and age, I'm just like, ooh, this. And Jake Connor, right, is carrying concern about this.
Yeah,
you know, so he's obviously picking that up from the changing rooms, perhaps, from other players around him. You know, I think the only thing you can hope for is that if you do come across one of those top-level teams, or even second-tier teams or whatever, is that they blood a load of youngsters, and, you know, that gives you a little bit of a chance. But, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah,
in a collision sport like this, it's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, player safety is important, isn't it? I mean, maybe bridging the gap somewhere would be we still keep the same format to the Challenge Cup, but it's a little bit later on in the season, so at least the community clubs have had more time to train and prepare. What do you think? Meet in the middle.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a vast. I mean, you've only got to look at like League One Championship teams that are not full-time pros, and then you look at the sometimes the skills is very similar. The skill level is very similar for most players. What's different is the conditioning. Yeah,
conditioning, fitness levels. Yeah, the impact on the tackles. Yeah, I mean, I'm in two minds with this because I'm.
Well, luckily, it doesn't involve us, does it? Like, we're not going to get smashed on the pitch.
Because we are in this new age, aren't we? Of player safety is so important, but then at the same time, if you ask me personally, I don't want to give up that chance.
You zoom out on this, right? You zoom out on it and just look, okay, risk assessment. All right, okay. So this big thing about like preventing concussion and all this. Anyway, we've brought in these rules. But it's the cup, so scrap them rules, right? That's your first strike. Then it's like, okay, right, next thing we're going to have these amateur players that are not even part-time, like just, it's a hobby, and that's that. And we're going to get them to play these full-time pros.
Actually, no, because they'll be playing League One sides first, won't they? And just some championship sides in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could be coming up against a York or a Bradford Bulls or in round. Yeah, you are right.
So
I mean, they are still semi-pro. But only just. Yeah, only just.
But some of them players were full-time professionals.
Yeah, 100%.
The last season, and anyway, it's just let's just.
We're just not coming. We're not coming to a conclusion, are we? We're torn, aren't we?
You want to see it, you want to be involved in it, but you don't want the freaking concussion. You don't want the injuries.
Yeah.
We were speaking to a player last week, preparing our documentary, and he was talking about how his life was completely changed because of brain injury, and he was the biggest scrapper on the pitch. It was absolutely part of his game, but it completely changed his life. And and that's kind of what you're dealing with, potentially. Hopefully everything goes well. Anyway, Jake Connor, voice of reason. You believe it?
Who'd have ever thought that, eh?
Okay.
I mean, I think we need to put this out in the comments for please put your comment in the section below and let us know what you think, because I think we haven't really come up with an answer, have we? Typical Williams Weekly. It's just a talking point that comes to no conclusion, but I'm interested to see what people think.
Okay, so thanks for tuning in again for the set of 6. Same show will be coming out next week, so make sure you stay tuned and hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any of the content that we're knocking out. Until next week, take care. Oh, Karl, any final words?
Oh, no, not this week.